The Alt Media. It's Sam Youngman, thealtmedia.com. Good to see you. I'm so sorry to hear of your loss. I saw you shared that you broke your surfboard in half. Is that not is that uncommon?
I mean, not as uncommon as I'd like it to be. This was the first board I've ever broken, and I loved it very much. Her name was Donna, and yeah, I was just out on a day when I shouldn't have been out, and I got caught inside, and a great big wave came along, and I went underneath it. My surfboard did not, and when I came up, it was in two pieces. So yeah, it's a bummer, but I'm always happy that I'd rather it be the board than me. Uh, but you're very
Have
sweet
you,
to offer condolences.
did you run right out and find another lady, or did you have a backup?
I took one day. I took one day and then I got back out there. Yeah, I needed a day to sort of mourn and stop cussing and like being pissed off, and then yeah, I was back out the next day.
Are you paying attention to this hurricane? Do you pay attention to hurricanes as a surfer and wish that you could be here on the East Coast?
I don't wish I could be there. I did, however, surf the tsunami warning out here. I don't know if you remember that when there was the
Yes,
earthquake in
that's why I
Russia.
asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're fucking nuts.
No, I'll tell you though, when I was in DC, I spent a ton of time in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and just really fell in love with that area and Hatteras. So I saw that Hurricane Aaron could be changing the terrain there again, and I'm just sending love and hoping everybody there is getting out safely.
You mentioned DC. It's one of the things I want to ask you about. I don't know. How long did you live there, and were you ever murdered or raped?
I was there for about 10 years, no murders, no rapes. I think I was the criminal back then in DC. No, man, DC is a pussycat of a town. It's if you get away from the fucking politicians, it's a great city. I always felt bad when I would trash Washington. I mean, I wrote a magazine piece called "Take This Town and Shove It," but the reality is, Washington D.C. is a great city. It's the politicians that fucking ruin it. Right now, the criminal in Washington I'm most concerned about is the convicted felon that a judge called a rapist. Just before you and I went live today, he was on Truth Social talking about how that gosh dang Smithsonian is only showing the bad sides of slavery. Um, yeah, I
No.
know. It sure is hard to figure out what connects all these dots, right? I mean, I think about New York Times reporters who just couldn't be sure if the president was racist in his heart. And for me, the birther guy who wouldn't rent to black people, that was not a hard call to make.
I'm looking at it right now. The museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, all caps, where everything discussed is how horrible a country is, how bad slavery was, and that's how everything is about how bad slavery was. I think that's what you're reacting to.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. We don't ever talk enough about the benefits of slavery. It's, I got to tell you, George Wallace must be spinning in his fucking grave to
Yeah.
know that all he had to do was call it woke and DEI, and he could have gotten away with all the racist shit that was in his cold, dead heart.
It's so right. I mean, I don't know. Somehow Trump gave permission years ago, about 10 years ago, and people have only now taken permission. It's so bold about their racism. Even the government now, promoting it with that recruiting slogan for ICE, preserve your culture. I think it would protect your culture. What?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
culture?
they're really not hiding it at all.
Right.
I mean, it's obvious. It's blatant. It's been obvious for a long time. That's the really maddening thing about Trump is that there's no fucking mystery behind any of this. Why is he kissing Putin's ass? Because he's Putin's bitch. Because Putin's probably got something on him. Why is he passing the big beautiful bill? Because he wants to look out for rich assholes like him, and he doesn't give a shit about anybody else. Yeah, why is he, defending slavery and making the Smithsonian less woke? Because he's a racist piece of shit. He always has been. There is no mystery to any of this. What you have is a Beltway press corps who runs this crazy shit to the normalizer machine, and it comes out sounding like something a normal, decent human being would do or say. And for a decade, we've just been pretending like the crazy shit that he says and does all day long isn't really that crazy.
I adore you. If you were here, I'd make sweet love to you. I love the way you talk. Uh, Going back to DC, what do you make of, what is your what is this moment in time where the National Guard is in DC, and National Guard from 4 Republican states now are also there, which is just so crazy because they're not doing anything. They're away from their families. They're using the National Guard, and then these Republican governors are kissing the ring by sending their guardsmen to do nothing, to be away from their jobs and their families, all for a show, for a charade. And a lot of people are saying that it's a pilot, that he can do it in DC because he's the president. But what do you make of this moment, of this action, and how much attention we should pay to it?
I mean, quite a bit. I think as much as we paid attention to the shots fired at Fort Sumner, right? I mean, and you're talking to somebody who lives in Los Angeles.
Right.
So, yeah, DC is not a pilot. It's part 2. We saw this play out here. It's just East Coast media doesn't really give a shit about what happens to LA unless we're on fire. And even then, kind of. No, look, man, this is terrifying. This is what, the don't tread on me people always claimed to care about, was that the president of the United States would start using the military like his own fucking personal police force and going after cities and Americans he doesn't like. I am utterly horrified by the pictures in the video I'm seeing out of DC. The only thing that makes me really happy is watching the people of DC fight back, watching them taunt and mock and make fun of these fucking weekend warriors with their neck gaiters and their mask, posing for pictures in slow motion videos outside the Lincoln Memorial. It's it's a weird paradox in America right now where Trump, and I talk about this a lot, but Trump creates heroes. And one of the nice side effects, one of the silver linings of fascism is it presents opportunities for everyday Americans to be heroes. And so when I see people saying "fuck you" to ICE, saying it to their faces, I'm like, there's an American hero. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm not going to endorse the sandwich guy just because I'm not quite ready to endorse, violence against police officers. That's more of a Republican thing, and with January 6th. But I tell you, when I see that, the takeoff on the Banksy with the
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the spirit I think we're all looking for.
The more of a guy, like a Banksy, like of the guy who threw the sandwich, and it's gone pretty viral. People are. Yeah, well, I mean, you say he makes heroes, and fascism and authoritarianism does tend to do that because we're not used to thinking in America that speaking out was necessarily heroic. We have so much free speech. We can speak out and say almost whatever we want, especially if you're white, to law enforcement, to people in government, in authoritarian authority positions. But now it's scary to speak out. It's scary to show up and stand in the way of these guys. So I take your point about making heroes, but it's sad that that's what heroic is in America in the 21st.
Oh yeah, I mean the ideal would be that we're all allowed to just live our normal lives in a free country without being fucked with by the president and his goons at every turn. But we don't get to choose the times we live in. We just get to choose how we respond to them. And right now, what we're seeing is Americans, everyday Americans, taking a stand for what's right and making clear to these masked thugs that they're not welcome in these cities. And I'll tell you, as ugly as, as ashamed as I am to be an American a lot of these days, that's the stuff that makes me proud to be an American, because I think that embodies the American spirit.
You mentioned the masks a couple times, and I was watching a video, one of these videos, these horrible videos. Why, I don't know if I want to watch them or if I don't want to watch them, but I watch them, and I think it's important that someone like me does, so I can talk about them and feel the emotions that you have around them. But I was watching one of these ICE guys, or whoever he was, with a mask on, white dude, skinny white dude. And the way he was talking to people that were standing on the sidewalk, get the fuck back. They were, posing no threat or whatever, but the way that he was talking and the way that he was acting, it's not as if he wouldn't act that way if he didn't have the mask on. But what do you think the mask does to create a lot more protection for really outrageous and abusive behavior, probably for anyone? Burglars wear masks too. And, the argument is that they're going to be doxxed. Yeah, because they're doing fucking horrible shit.
Yeah.
And say just more about the masks themselves and what.
Well, I think the mask have the same effect that Trump does. He gives license to these truly horrible people to be their most horrible selves.
Mm,
You've got some tiny peckered little punk wearing a net gate over his face, screaming at women and children to show just how fucking tough he is. You take that mask off, see what a badass he is then, right? Take his racist hero out of the White House and then see what a badass he is, right? Everybody's a lot. It's like Twitter, right? It's like it's like real life Twitter
yeah.
where you can put you become an anonymous avatar and all of a sudden you're real tough. You got a real big mouth because you don't have to deal with any consequences.
But my favorite place to be is the local Facebook page where I live, because I never really insult these people. I almost always try to kill them with kindness because they say horrible things to me and they've done horrible things to me. And almost always I'm like, do you want to grab coffee? And I name like a local place because say it to my face. Like
Right.
I'm not going to try to fight somebody. I would much rather you punch me because there's cameras everywhere and then I'll own a lot of your shit. By all means, hit me. But I do want to see if you would say that kind of nonsense, stupid argument to my face. And, I just love arguing with, especially with idiots. And
Yeah.
so
And
it,
most of them wouldn't. And you know why, how I know that? Because Trump wouldn't. Look at the White House yesterday. Look at how much shit this guy talks when he's on Truth Social about the leaders of Europe, about Zelensky. But when they get face to face, oh, he's just a big softy, isn't he? He wants to make friends. He couldn't even attack Zelensky in the Oval Office last time by himself. He had to have Vice President Couchfuck there to do it for him.
uh, I feel like, I love experts and foreign policy experts and Russia experts and history experts. And I think they're all important and relevant right now. But I also think anyone can analyze what is going on here if you just know a little bit about Vladimir Putin. This dude is just dragging it out. He's just buying time. He will make zero concessions. He will sign zero peace treaties, no matter, even if an American administration turned the screws on them and put in more sanctions and did all kinds of other things that you could do. This dude's not giving up because his lifelong mission is to own Ukraine and make sure it's not kind of Western friendly. Like, so all this analysis that we're seeing from experts, Sam, I'm just not sure it's worth it because of who this guy is. We all know he is. What do you think about all the analysis and what do you think is his motivation is right now, Putin?
I mean, his motivation is to, like you said, is to basically reunite the Soviet Union. He considers that, a disgrace to his homeland, and he wants to right that wrong. It's funny, you say nothing would stop him. I'd like to test that theory by seeing what happens when he runs out of troops. I would like to arm Ukraine indefinitely and let them continue taking down what used to be a superpower without firing a single American shot, without a single pair of American boots on the ground. I want to see what happens when Putin runs out of poor Russian men and boys to put in his fucking wood chipper. Let's exhaust him. Let's do what the Ukrainians have been doing for 3 years, which is to drag his sorry ass out on a battlefield and show he's not nearly as tough as he claims to be. That would have been the position of strength I would have preferred to see. Get him down to his last 2 or 3 soldiers and then see if he wants to negotiate.
I mean, I think that I've never been for any war. I've certainly never been for any proxy war in our lifetime. America's fought a lot of proxy wars kind of alone. They've dragged the coalition of partners and your Cameroons and Barzinias as made up a country along because they have leverage over them somehow or not. But whether it had been Vietnam or Iraq or the proxy war in Afghanistan against Russia, we can argue about whether they worked or not. But in this case, it's all of Europe and us against Russia, and we don't have to put any troops on the ground, and it's a dime in our defense budget. We were spending that money anyway, and the money comes back to America. It's American jobs. It seems like a pretty good idea, a pretty good expenditure of money to bleed the Russian military dry, destroy their navy. They're still going to have their nukes. They're still going to be a threat, but at least they can't continue to be aggressive in Ukraine and their neighbors. It seems like a really good strategy, and I've never argued for any kind of war in my life.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. The sleepy guy could figure this out, but the Russia guy couldn't. No, I mean, look, the reality is, I'm not a warmonger either. Part of the reason I'm not is because I've seen wars of choice fought over my lifetime, wars like Iraq. This to me was a war of necessity. They were invaded. They were invaded by a man who's made clear he has no intention of stopping. So then it becomes an existential question. Are we fine with Russia taking Europe? Are we not concerned about what that means for us eventually? I know Trump likes to say, well, there's a big ocean between us. Just the dumbest motherfucker. The reason we care about Ukraine, other than the fact that we're supposed to be a country that stands up for freedom and stands up to oppose bullies, is because it is an existential threat to our allies. Just like Hitler was in World War II, right? I mean, we stand up to this shit. We fight them there so we don't have to fight them here. But this instance, we weren't even doing the fighting. Other brave soldiers were doing the fighting. They were bringing Russia to our knees. All we had to do was keep supplying ammunition.
What do you make of the Marco Rubios and the Republicans who have forever been anti-Putin, anti-Russia, supporting, inviting him to America and rolling out a red carpet and not, I mean, getting rolled by almost all accounts, but at least they flew some fighter jets over. What do you make of this Republican Party being so friendly to Vladimir Putin? I'm thinking of Rubio especially.
Yeah, I mean, all these tough guys sure do get on their knees fast, don't they? I mean, I've heard listen to Marco Rubio, his whole fucking career, talk about Fidel Castro, and I am quite certain at this point that Marco would have been the first to volunteer to suck a fart out of Castro's asshole if he'd been given the chance. Rubio has made clear his only issue with dictators is that he can't get close enough to them. I've never seen a man look like he's rotting from the inside out the way that guy does. He looks like a Halloween pumpkin a month after Halloween. Like his soul is fucking dying, and you can see it. It's visible.
That is the clip, bro. Oh man, that is perfect. I always call him a hollow barrel, but I got to make that shorter. A pumpkin a month after Halloween. Uh, how much of this do you think is a distraction from the Epstein files? And what do you say to people who say, keep talking about the Epstein files?
I agree. Keep talking about the Epstein files. Right now, one of the most notorious child rapists and traffickers is sitting in a country club prison in Texas instead of doing the hard time in Florida she was sentenced to. And we don't know why. We don't know why this administration that is invading American cities because they're supposedly tough on crime, we don't know why they're coddling a child rapist and trafficker. Yes, goddamn right. Keep asking those questions because we deserve to know an answer. Oh, and by the way, we're paying to take care of her. So we deserve to know those answers. But here's the thing. I won't say we can walk and chew gum at the same time. What I'm saying is none of this shit is a distraction. It's all important. There's none of this that we can be dismissive of and just say, oh, well, this is just a distraction from this thing. It all matters. It's all bad. And it's all part and parcel of a corrupt and criminal president doing corrupt and criminal shit. It all leads back to that. So yeah, no, I'm not ready to give up the Epstein story either. But I'm also not going to look the other way while he's invading American cities and terrorizing American citizens. I'm not going to look the other way when he's selling out our allies so he can kiss Putin's dictator ass. I have the bandwidth to be outraged and furious about all of it.
Ah, well said. What do you make of this redistricting gerrymandering scandal that has been, again, Trump asking to find a few more seats and Texas and other Republican states doing his bidding? And the answer from blue state governors like Newsom and Hochul and others are, we can do it too. But I feel like I read some analysis that the math is not on the side of democracy and Democrats. And so, I mean, do you have a full grasp on this scandalous, insidious, anti-democratic effort that is being undertaken by Republicans on behalf of Schittler?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say go as far as say I have a full grasp, other than to say what we're talking about is an arms race. If you do it, we'll do it. The California setup is basically set up as a trigger law, which we won't vote on this thing unless Texas goes ahead with their attempt to rig the map. My big takeaway from this is that Trump's internal polling must be a goddamn nightmare. I mean, the way he is going out of his way to publicly rig next year's election makes very clear to me he knows he's going to lose. The quote big beautiful bill is an absolute disaster. I don't think I've ever seen legislation poll worse than that does. His approval ratings anywhere from Pew has him at 38, Reuters Ipsos yesterday had him at 40. He's a disaster. He's terrible. Americans are remembering why they voted this guy out in the first place. I just wish our memories weren't so shitty. We wouldn't have voted him back in the first place. But to me, that's the big takeaway from the redistricting. That and Texas is just off the fucking rails. I mean, they're literally holding a black woman hostage in the House chamber as we speak because she refuses to sign a permission slip that says she has to be followed around by a state trooper. Um, to me, the more they go down this road of authoritarianism, the more clear it becomes who they really are. There's a part of me that just almost is begging Trump to actually arrest Obama. I feel like that would make it clearer for middle of the road Americans who aren't paying attention than just about anything else would. Barack Obama is an enormously popular figure in this country. If you get outside the Fox News echo chambers, I would really like for Trump to put his money where his big mouth is. Go ahead, arrest Obama. I fucking dare you.
Look, Sam, I appreciate it, but maybe back off a little bit. Slow your roll.
It's not like he and I are tight. So I mean, it's always easy for me to make gambles like this with somebody else's freedom, right?
What about the reaction from your governor there, Gavin Newsom? One of the things he's doing, I mean, he's just his new talking point, I think, is wake up, which I really like, but also his social media game. The California governor press office is mocking Trump's years-long Twitter style. And what do you make of it, this mockery? Is it effective?
It is absolutely effective. If the goal is to get in the heads of Trump's army of kiss asses, then this is going gangbusters. And I'll tell you, it's got people like me who have always been sort of, have always looked at Gavin with a bit of a side eye, not knowing whether to trust the guy, who sits down with Steve Bannon, not knowing whether to trust the guy who can be anti-trans or, a guy who, cleans out homeless encampments with his own bare hands and a camera watching. What I have seen from Gavin Newsom in the last couple of weeks has been, I would call it inspired. I mean, it's just, giving them a taste of their own medicine. And I don't know if you saw Dana Perino on Fox News yesterday. She straight up fucking lost it. I mean, she lost it. And if you look at like Trump's deputy press secretaries, you can tell how much this is eating them alive. Just to have somebody throw back in his face the inane ramblings. I also love when he refers to himself as your favorite governor. I mean, all that shit. I live to mock these assholes. It's my favorite thing to do. It's what's keeping me going. And I've got to hand it to Gavin and his social media team because they are doing some Hall of Fame shit right now.
It's actually an important job. It really is an important public policy job to fulfill the role of mocker in chief mockery because it works. It's effective. And, I really believe that people like Gavin Newsom should have somebody on their social media staff that's a legit comedy writer whose strength is comebacks and witticisms. And, there's a lot of Congress people who are pretty good at this on their own. And I'm sure they have people helping them like AOC or Jasmine Crockett or plenty of others on social media. But I think you should have someone on your staff who's really good at these types of comebacks because it's effective. It works. And like you're saying, I really think it matters. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've been cheering them on. My favorite, one of the only things I like about Trump and his team is they don't ever hide it when something is getting under their skin. And this is clearly getting under their skin. Yeah. You mentioned that Gavin's thing these days is Democrats need to wake up. I think what he said is you need to wake the fuck up. And he's absolutely right. The other thing, I think this is a good test case for a lot of people on the left. It's a good reminder that when we do have a 2028 nominee, he or she may not be your first choice. They may not be somebody that you completely respect or love or anything else. They may just be the person who can win. And sometimes that's okay. If you're looking for purity in politics, then you're probably the kind of person that looks for love in a strip club. It just ain't happening. Sorry. I know.
I've done it, actually. I found love in the strip club, I thought.
Expensive, I'm sure.
It was, I thought. I really thought you liked me. And then we left.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Fake number?
It was a long time ago. No number. Just said she'd like to see me again. And my friend told me on the way out, it was because I was giving her money. That's what he told me.
You needed your friend to tell you that? You're a sweet man.
She seemed really sincere to me. And she was kind of like at my league.
I'm torn between wanting to give you a hug and wanting to sell you a $60 Trump Bible. So
The latter, probably. I'll take both. What do you think of just? I'll let you go, but Democratic leadership right now. I mean, it feels like this guy Zohran Mamdani, who is running for mayor of New York, but gosh, he's so charismatic. He's so thoughtful. He's so empathic. He's a real smart guy. He seems to be one of the leaders of the movement, the kind of one of the ones we've been waiting for to run. I think there's a lot of great candidates around the country, and in a quote normal political atmosphere where voting wasn't being suppressed and there weren't all these hijinks, I would be a lot more excited by these candidates who seem really good in states like Iowa and Senate races and the governor race and there. But what do you think of the current electeds and as well as those people who have announced that they're running?
yeah, I mean, you say, what do I think of Democratic leadership? I guess my response is to ask, who is Democratic leadership? If we're talking about Zoran Mamdani and we're talking about Gavin Newsom, then I would say I'm thrilled by what I'm seeing from Democratic leadership. They're taking the fight to Trump. They're fighting for the things people care about. If you're talking about our leaders in Washington, I don't have much to say, but they don't really either. One thing I was going to say a minute ago about Newsom and his approach to all of this is I think one of the reasons people are so happy and even relieved to see it is it suggests that finally somebody in a position like his gets what we're dealing with. Joe Biden, God love him, as my mother used to say. I really like Biden, but Biden was a nice guy who thought that Mitch McConnell was his friend. We're not doing that shit anymore. We're not pretending like, oh, my friends across the aisle. Fuck that. Senate Democrats keep playing that game and people hate them for it. Look at how the Democratic Party is polling right now, and you'll see that even our own people don't like us. Like, we don't like ourselves. And until we stop just showing up to get kicked in the teeth, I'm afraid it's going to be that way. That's why you have people like me who are skeptical of Gavin Newsom, but standing up and cheering him on because we're just so fucking sick and tired of the Washington doublespeak and people who don't seem to get the gravity of the situation.
Least important thing, but I wanted to get your reaction to it. The actor Chris Pratt sat down with Bill Maher.
The worst Chris.
He's the worst of the Chris's. And I was just outraged by what he said. A couple of people were like, why are you giving him any attention? I'm like, because when you have a platform, blank, period. Like, I just don't admire people who have a platform and don't use it for something. And not only that, just what he said. I mean, it's like, people shouldn't get so upset, so mired in hatred. And also said, I'm not going to root against our leaders. I want them to succeed. It's just also, I've always thought that was putrid. You don't want the president to succeed? No. Yes. I don't want him to succeed. Like, why is that so hard? I didn't want Bush to succeed either. Like, I don't want bad people to succeed and making shit worse for people who are most marginalized, for example, or I don't know, the fucking planet. What do you think of Chris Pratt and anybody else who says that kind of nonsense?
I don't think much of Chris Pratt. And I'll tell you why. Because it's real fucking easy for Chris Pratt and Bill Maher to sit there in their studio, rich as fuck, saying these things. Offering this pablum. And I'll tell you why. Because ICE isn't coming after Chris Pratt's family. Nobody is starving Chris Pratt's children. Nobody is taking Chris Pratt's health care. Chris Pratt's going to be just fucking fine. He has the luxury of, he even said, when I'm playing cards with RFK Jr., it's like, oh, I didn't realize you were one of the common men. Well, thanks for weighing in. I don't have any time for these rich elitist assholes who have no idea what Trump administration policies mean for real people. And it's just, I don't know. I'm always surprised Bill Maher wants to have somebody else on that would interrupt him smelling his own farts. I mean, especially this guy. I feel like it's just, it's the Spider-Man meme, right? Where there's just two guys that are, agreeing with each other nonstop. I saw Maher was saying, last week that, Democrats are afraid to go on his show. It's like saying you're afraid to get syphilis. No, man, I just don't want syphilis.
God, you're on fire today. Oh, that's amazing. You always are. I really appreciate you weighing in on all these important issues. I love reading your newsletter, and I love even more talking to you. It's like I'm reading your newsletter. Thank you very much. I hope everybody watching will go subscribe right now to thealtmedia.com. If you're not already subscribed, you're really missing out on more of what Sam is bringing over there. Sam, thank you.
Pete, you're the best, buddy. Thanks for always being so supportive. You're very kind.
Bye, everybody.